Do you remember when Oasis released the song Wonderwall? Some might say it's difficult to believe it was over 25 years ago. That seems crazy. Hi, good morning. Nice to see you. Thank you also for your very kind comments about the recent video regarding the DWP and the fact that they are now offering full-time roles. If you have any information about that, please do contact the email provided. I'd love to get this information out to people that perhaps could benefit. Well, today we're going to talk about something that's very close to my heart. It's something that affects millions of people across the country. And I've had several requests to actually cover this topic. It's something that is going to affect you at some point in your life, or certainly somebody that you know. Because as we get older, it does seem that society values us less and less. And this is all down to the way that they perceive us and how they treat us as a consequence. And it doesn't matter what your age, whether you're 25, 35, 45, 55, 65. It seems that as we get older, we do get brushed aside. And this is something that really doesn't sit comfortably with me. And so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you experienced this yourself? Do you know anybody that has? I know that you're going to write to me and say, "Oh no, I've got a lovely young boss and he's really supportive and they treat everybody equally." Wonderful. Fantastic. I'm pleased that you've had that experience, but sadly, this is not the case for the majority of people. And so I want to raise that issue today. Before I continue, please make sure that you're subscribed. And please also support the channel because then I can continue to grow this and bring you more news. And also, if you want more content, check out the podcast. You can download that through various platforms. I want to start today with a story that I found quite depressing and very sad. Bill Howell was in his mid-40s when he started to notice it happening. A highly qualified broadcast engineer and technician who has worked in the creative industries for decades, including at management level, he was starting to struggle to find work. It was not that the work wasn't there. He has applied for more than 600 jobs in the past 10 months alone, 400 of them in the industry he is trained in. But after reaching the interview stage a handful of times, he has noticed a disconcerting pattern. I'd get an invite to a face-to-face, and at that point I noticed people's demeanor would change. The second they realized I was an older person. Then they'd come back, afterwards and give me some lame excuse for not hiring me that wasn't relevant, he says. When you try to question it, you just get ghosted. He is now 61, but omits his date of birth from his CV. He also lists only his past 15 to 20 years worth of work experience for fear of triggering alarm bells among younger hiring managers, whom he suspects prefer to hire in their own image, age-wise. His experience has been frustrating and demoralizing, not least as he feels he's still very much up to the job. "I'm physically and mentally fit and active," he says. "It's not like I'm showing my age." Yet he is currently working as a general laborer, sweeping floors and packing boxes, because it is all he can get. "I've got all these qualifications that I've worked hard for, and all the experience to back it up, yet here I am pushing a broom," he sighs. Last October, he couldn't even find work for which he was overqualified and ended up claiming job seeker S allowance for 6 months. Mental burden. "I've tended not to bother claiming it on other occasions because of the embarrassment," he says. "But this time, I had to." He and his wife now face losing their 3-bedroom home in Slough, Berkshire, where they've lived for decades, and downsizing to a cheaper area just to survive. "Psychologically, it's a massive burden," he says. "I'm pretty robust, but there are times when it becomes very hard." Howell's story is not unusual. The number of over 50s claiming benefits has hit almost 2 million for the first time, according to research published this month by the Center for Social Justice. This represents a 600,000 increase in the number of those aged 50 to 64 who are out of work and on benefits. The figure has been boosted by growing numbers of older workers citing long-term sickness, the research suggested, with a 21% increase in this phenomenon since 2015. But there are plenty, like Howell, who are able and eager to work and yet struggle for other reasons, including caring responsibilities, the inability to find a suitable job, and, in many cases, ageism, say older job seekers and campaigners. The implications of this are far-reaching. Talent, wisdom, and experience is leaking out of our workforce at an alarming rate, with a record number of over 50s now on out-of-work benefits, says Joe Shalom, policy director at the CSJ. The think tank is calling for age-specific employment targets for workers over 50, improved occupational health services to prevent older workers from becoming inactive, and a reformed FitNote system to ensure that those who may be fit for work are supported to stay in work. Doing so, it notes, correlates in turn with better health outcomes, but the figures suggest that many midlifers are currently locked out of this virtuous circle. It is heartbreaking to read stories of talented and skilled workers in their 50s and 60s who can no longer find the kind of work they excelled at in their 30s and 40s, says Tracy Riddell, Senior Program Manager in Age-Friendly Employment at the Center for Aging Better. The ability of these workers to do the job well has not changed. If anything, experience has only raised their capability. All that has changed is their age, and that should never be a reason for being frozen out of work. Feelings of shame and humiliation. Not only can it have a disastrous impact on their personal finances and jeopardize their ability to plan for retirement, says Riddell, but struggling to find work, and in some cases being unexpectedly forced onto benefits, takes its toll mentally too. Many 50-plus workers in this situation have expressed feelings of shame, not being able to provide for their family, and the humiliation of not being seen as valuable by employers. She says, they feel they're not able to contribute in the way that they would wish to. All of this leaves older workers doubting their own ability and their own worth and feeling extremely pessimistic about their futures. It has a wider effect on the economy, too, when a sizable portion of the workforce isn't employed. The CSJ warns that the steep rise in the number of older people out of work is an economic disaster and a missed opportunity, at a time when economic growth is urgently needed. Even a modest rise in employment among midlifers could generate billions of pounds worth of tax revenue and represent significant welfare savings, it says. Campaigners agree. With economic growth being such a priority in our country and with our population aging, we're past the point when we can afford to disregard the skills, talents, and experience of older workers, argues Caroline Abrahams, charity director at Age UK. We need to consign ageism to the past and create better systems for helping people in their 50s and beyond to stay in work, get a job, and retrain when necessary. Reaching a critical point in the meantime, the situation will do little to help defuse the so-called ticking time bomb of BritNews pension system. Almost half of working-age adults are not paying into a private workplace pension, according to the government, but for those like Howell, it is not because they haven't thought to plan for retirement. Of the 600 jobs he has applied for since October, only 4 resulted in an interview. His situation is now approaching a critical point. The finances have been decimated, and we're looking at having our car repossessed, he says. We've ended up having to dip into our savings, to the point where we've now had to sell personal artifacts. We've given up holidays, days out. We've not even been able to replace things when they break, he says. Though his wife works, she's in a low-paid job, and between them the pair are surviving on a sum that's below the living wage. It's not enough for 2 people to live off, says Howell. He previously took a $30,000 pay cut just to be able to continue working in the industry he was trained in. Now, he can't even do that. In the past, when I was out of work, I felt confident I could rebuild again. Now, I feel I'm running out of time, he says. This is why I've been fighting tooth and nail to try to get another job. He has heard similar stories from other over 50s. On social media, you often find people saying the same thing, he says. But while age is a protected characteristic under the Equality Act, proving a hiring manager has discriminated on the basis of it can be hard. Companies do try to give you reasons why they've not taken you on if they can, but a lot of them aren't relevant, says Howell. He still holds out hope that he may find another role as a broadcast engineer. But unless this happens soon, his future retirement could look very different to the one he hoped to have. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have reached 50 yet, but I have. And I think it's something that we all need to be mindful of. Because it doesn't matter whether you're 55, 65, 75. It seems that once you get past a certain age, you become invisible. They don't necessarily teach you that at school. So, let me know what you think in the comments section below. As always, I will link to the relevant information below. And thank you for watching. And in the meantime, please do take care.